information is being given.
Why don't we mute him and we give the commentary? Let's give the speech that Obama should give. How about that? Keep him on the screen.
In 10 days,
and mute him.
The world,
and then we could do the rest. Can you do that, David? Okay, great. All right. Now, only person I don't see on the screen is Brandon. Maybe it's my. All right. So Obama's giving his farewell speech. What is he not going to say? What is he? That's more interesting than what he's saying because he's not really saying a lot. I love Obama. Listen, I'm probably the only person in the room who actually is really fond of Obama, and I'm not going to let y'all.
That's not true. I'm not unfond of Obama.
You said you're not unfond of Obama?
That's not true. I'm not unfond. I love Michelle.
Okay. Well, I said probably. So, okay. So
I'm saying, like, that's not true. I love the girls. I mean, Sasha Malia, absolutely adorable. I love them. I mean, quite honestly, I love the symbolism that my kids got to see for 8 years, right? Like I've told the story before when Max was 4.5 and he was so obsessed with Barack. He called him Barack Obama because he couldn't say Barack Obama properly. And he dressed up as him for Halloween. So it's so, you know, from that standpoint, it's as a parent, it's been really great. And my daughter got to grow up seeing bright little black girls growing up, being nice and staying out of trouble, unlike them little Bush girls ahead of her. So, you know, I mean, like as a parent, like that's been very cool. And Michelle is a regular girl. She goes to Target and she shops at J. Crew and like all that other good stuff. And she slips out of the White House and does her own thing. Like, okay, like regular working woman, holla. So no, I like the Obamas. I mean, I got issues with him though.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we all do. Well, no, that's the problem. We don't. Did y'all see the song? There was a guy who actually sang a song, like recorded an album or something about Obama. This white guy, his beard was fly. He had a nice beard. But I'm like, okay, it's just a little weird, like the hero worship. And I get it. I mean, I understand it, but it just crosses over into a little bit of weirdness.
I don't know. I think I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think Obama is a very dangerous president. Like he's very, very cool and charming and charismatic, and it's very easy to fall in love with him on a personal level and ignore his politics, ignore what he's done. And I think that we see that a lot now, where the people whenever you listen to people talk about the things that he did, and don't get me wrong, I agree with Anoa. I think that he, from a qualitative standpoint, he improved the lives and confidence of so many Black families, so many, in a way that we'll never know. We'll never know what the cultural impact of President Obama was in a real, measurable way. But from his quantitative elements, I think we can measure the things that we know for a fact that he did, that he didn't just sort of do by nature of being cool and Black, are very, very problematic. And a lot of people just seem to fail to come to terms with those things. They're I'm kind of glad that he's going. He's too cool. He's too cool for us. Like he's cool. He's cool and dangerous.
Push back on, right? Name me a president that isn't a dangerous president, right? In those measurable, tangible ways of them expanding the American empire, expanding the American capitalistic empire more than anything else, using the military to do so. I mean, name me a president besides Jimmy Carter who isn't. And Jimmy Carter had his spots where he was problematic, but name me a president who actually hasn't been dangerous.
Well, just because something is normal doesn't mean it's not problematic.
Yeah, I mean, still, but that's where I jump off the ship with most people, is because people make it seem like Obama has been this specialized threat, and he's been no more threat to the world than any other American president. The problem is the office of the presidency.
Well, I mean, he has done things that I would consider to be anomalous. Whether we can never know if McCain or Romney would have done worse or the same thing or better in terms of certain things, but we know he deported more illegal immigrants than any other president before him. He used the Espionage Act to prosecute whistleblowers more than any other president before him. He engaged in the, I would say, the dubiously lawful assassination of American citizens abroad with no due process. He did certain things that I would consider to be completely like those three things by themselves make me.
That's far from anomalous, though. That is, America has a trajectory, right? There's a trajectory, and as progressives, we're challenging that trajectory. We got a problem with the trajectory, but the Patriot Act was the entry, the gateway drug, if you would. They gave him all these surveillance powers. That was step one, like Act One. Was the Patriot Act underneath George Bush. Whoever the president is, and this is how we'll measure it. And I agree with you. I'm glad he's going. because we'll be able to measure it, because we're going to see Donald Trump conform in ways that he doesn't want to conform. But there is a momentum to the American government. There are powers, there's levers of power that pull and pressure the president to operate within a certain framework. And I think we're going to see the same exact thing, just the same trajectory, right? We're going to see an increase of that surveillance unless America, led by progressives, actually crushes something like the Patriot Act.
Well, I definitely agree with you. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely agree the office of the president, the military industrial complex, the intelligence community, they all have their own inertia. They're all going to be, like, regardless of who the president is, they're all going to do their best to move forward. And it would take a gargantuan effort to move them back or to shift their course, because that's just the way they've been structured. Right. And the way our government has been structured, for better, well, not with your better worse, but really for worse. But my fear is this: when we talk about Trump, is that I think that the person chanting a little bit earlier was I think he was saying 4 more years. I think she was saying 4 more years. And my fear is not the normalization of this stuff, because this stuff has already been normalized. My fear is the absolution of Obama's actual record because of Trump's overt, like, just anomalous behavior. Right. And so, like, that's the problem. If you have people who are going to be
Obama would be more dangerous out of office because of Trump than he was in office.
Yeah, you basically, you have people begging for the yoke of Obama's neoliberal policies to escape neo-fascism. You have people begging for, like,
Here's confirmation of that. People are longing for George W. Bush. People are longing for Ronald Reagan. So by all means, they're going to long for anything and everything Obama did and would have wanted to do. I mean,
that's the funny thing.
It's actually sad, right? It's really, really sad to see people who don't have a firm, like, ability to say, okay, he's a nice guy, I like him, don't have anything against him except for his politics, right? And then because they look at it as I mean, we say this all the time, right? It's a team sport. We have people who just, anything the Democrats do is fine, anything the Republicans do is the devil, and so it opens a gateway to that type of behavior you're describing.
Well, I also think it's hard. So I think it's hard for people to actually hold those two disparate thoughts in their head. And that's why they tell journalists you shouldn't go to these parties, you shouldn't become friends with these people, because it's very hard to say, well, from a personal standpoint, I like him. I like Obama. I think he's cool. I think he could, I'd want to get a drink with him. He could probably school me in basketball and steal my girlfriend. But
and flag surf on the White House lawn. I mean,
but then also have this idea in your head, like, well, his policies are very, very problematic, because eventually you start special pleading for him. You go, well, I'm sure he must have had a good reason. Like, that's Barry. He must have had a good reason. Like, I know Barry. Did you see that Jay he made last week? It was crazy. Like Barry wouldn't assassinate people. It's like,
and I agree with you 100% there. I agree with you 100%, because it's so easy to do when you feel like you have this personal connection to and quite frankly, like, I see the office of the presidency as this anomaly in and of itself. Obama probably has done things that he did not want to do, but it's completely irrelevant. He still did them. So I'm really fascinated in seeing what the next guy is going to do and how he conforms and see how he operates. And I think America's going to be, this is what we do so well. We act as though the world changed so drastically, like the end was coming. And I guarantee you, 4 years from now, unless Trump actually has a breakdown, 4 years from now, we would have progress on the same exact trajectory that Ronald Reagan put us on in 1981. We haven't really diverted from that trajectory in since then. In my thoughts, Nick, you're over there quiet, because I think Nick might be the one who has some choice words for Obama. What do you think about Obama's and his legacy, X, Y, and Z, everything else we've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's something that comes to my mind. It's just like, just because somebody, has a similar skin tone to you doesn't mean they can't screw you over. And so I don't know him. I don't know Barack Obama. All I know is the manufactured image that they put up on TV to show me. And because I understand that, I can only evaluate him based off of what I expect from that position. So, viewing politics as an exchange, I'm looking for, okay, you're in this powerful position and you have leverage to do certain things, and it's my responsibility to judge you based off of how I feel you're representing me or a group that I care about, or issues that I care about, how you're representing that. And when I think about it in that way, I think Barack Obama has definitely been a huge letdown. That's not to say that some other president would have done better, but I'm saying that
He was the president, so it's his.
He was the president, and just along with the rest, he did, a miserable job on that regard. And since I don't know him, I don't have a personal connection, so I don't give him points for that end. So I'm only going to judge him based off of his basically what he's achieved in the office.
So you're immune to Obama's allure, and this is kind of what Brandon was talking about. But there's got to be somebody in your life where you're like, I don't know them personally, but I'm a fan of them. Like,
whoa, wait, hold on. Nick wasn't always immune to Obama's allure. This is a key. He fell for the trap, and now he's a little bit salty about it.
Oh yeah, well you know what? Look, I'll be the first person to tell you when Barack Obama was running. I had just finished reading Overthrow. I was like, oh my God, America's so evil. We really got to turn this ship around. And I looked at Barack Obama and I was like, okay, this will be my first chance to see a progressive president really try to, move the pendulum in the other direction. And then when he got in there, as soon as he announced his cabinet, I was like, oh, that's done.
Yep.
I just threw my hands up.
See, I'm glad, to know that, because and I managed. So I have this horrible ability to compartmentalize, particularly with American politics, because I know what America is. I know what it's going to do. I know the trajectory we're on, and that now person is really able to change that. It's going to really take the people. It's going to take a real revolution to change our trajectory. So I've been able to compartmentalize like my fondness of Obama and the fact that his politics are shit, because his politics are almost identical to Republicans. Once you throw away all the spin of all the 24-hour news cycles, we're not really doing much different than we could have done underneath the Mitt Romney in many ways.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, this whole conversation we're having about Obama and the affinity, and basically it's something what both Brandon and Nick said, all skin folk and kinfolk, and but black people, because there has been so much degradation and oppression and stuff, when we see someone who does well, we want to make them representative of everything, right? And that's why there's such a visceral response when something negative either happens to be thrown someone, or there's such a visceral response when someone shuns us. Like, just even thinking back to like Tiger Woods, and Tiger Woods went through that whole thing where he wasn't black, he was Caucasian, kind of like Brandon.
Please.
But like
serious. That's what I was like. I was like, boy, if you didn't have however $150 million and you were just a brown guy on the streets of Brockton and Roxbury, Massachusetts, you would be black.
But even like with Michael Jackson, like black people was dying for Michael Jackson's attention, and Michael Jackson wasn't trying to be black again until all of a sudden that I forget whatever that record was that wasn't doing well, like in his later years. Then all of a sudden he's black. The music industry is against black people stuff. So it's like we have this real pathological, almost abusive relationship with people who like make it. Yeah. And this idolization and this need to belong. We put all our hopes and dreams. Like someone had a post earlier about how like we're so busy celebrating excellence that we don't actually spend the time to set the standard of what excellence should look like for us in our communities. And I think that's so true. I think that because we have experienced what we have experienced in this country historically, we do have this tendency to give people too much leeway. Same thing with the Black Miss Leadership class, right? We have decades of so-called Black leadership that we have allowed to engage with us in the way that we have because there are Black leaders, and we ignore and disregard stuff that we wouldn't take from anyone else, but hey, they're Black and they're from us and we got to support them no matter what. And I don't buy that. Like I definitely believe in increasing and supporting, strong Black leaders, but at the same time, they need to actually be about the work, about the people, and about the community. They can't just be about, being blackface neoliberal agents.
He looks, I don't know what the hell he's saying, but he looks like he's saying something so serious and so important. It's probably...
Yeah, whatever. One thing else I wanted to say, when he was like how much he's so believing about a movement of the people, and how he's really believing the people rising up and the people like taking, the country and stuff. I'm like, that's such horseshit, because you just helped, and you have continued to try to crush and subdue exactly that, right? Like this is what should have been a natural outgrowth of what OFA should have been years ago. And you sided along with the political machine of the elites to crush us